Hi guys, today we are going to see how to write functions that accept any number of arguments. Let's get right into it. So I'm now here on VS Code. We're going to do all the explanations and write all the functions right here on VS Code. When you have the star symbol precede a parameter, this will enable you to call that function with any number of positional arguments. So basically, preceding a parameter with the star symbol allows you to call your function with any number of arguments. Before we go into calling functions with any number of arguments, I'll quickly just show us what I mean by positional arguments. So, with positional arguments, arguments are assigned to parameters based on their position in the function call. Let's see how this works. I have this function that I have written out. It's called introduction, and this function takes in two parameters. The first parameter is name and the second parameter is age. I have this print statement that is going to print out, hello, my name is name, I am age years old. When this function is executed, name is going to be replaced with the first argument here, and age is going to be replaced with the second argument here. That's basically how positional arguments work. Now I'll go ahead, I'll run this code. Now notice that we have hello, my name is Nse, I am 25 years old. Because Nse is the first argument provided here, it is passed to the name parameter, which is the first parameter provided here. 25 is the second argument, and so it is passed to the age parameter, which is the second parameter provided in this function. With positional arguments, order matters a lot. Arguments that are provided in a function call have to match the parameter order, just the way that you want to apply them in your code. For instance, let's swap positions of the arguments provided in this function call. Let's have 25 as the first argument and let's have Nse as the second argument. I'll run this code, and now notice that we have here on the terminal printed, hello, my name is 25, I am Nse years old. That doesn't make any sense at all. Now notice that while this code syntax might not give any errors at all, the output of the code is wrong. You can see that here the order of output does not match the intended parameters. So when calling a function, you have to be careful to ensure that your arguments are in the order that you intend them to be. I hope that makes sense. Now, remember that the number of arguments must match the number of parameters. Just like we saw in the previous video, you cannot call this introduction function with less than two arguments. If you do, there will be an error. Let's try it and see. Let's provide just one argument in this function call. I'll run this code and you can see that we have an error. Python is complaining about the number of arguments. It says missing one required positional argument, age. This means that For this code to run without errors, then we have to provide a second argument that would be passed to age, being the second parameter. Let's just have 30, and I'll save and I'll run the code. And now notice that we have, hello, my name is Nse, I am 30 years old. So this function now runs correctly with no errors at all. Now this brings us back to where we started. Remember, we started by saying that you can call a function with any number of positional arguments, and that's made possible when you precede your parameter with the star symbol. Let's see an example. In this example, we have a function. The function name is group members, and we have our parameter here, args, and it is preceded with the star symbol. And this function is basically just going to print the value of args. On line 7 here, we have a function call, and this function takes in one argument. Now let's run this code and see what happens. Now we have Jane printed, and Jane is enclosed in parentheses, and then it ends with a comma. Let me explain that a bit before we go further. When you have a function parameter preceded with a star symbol, Python knows that you want to call the function with any number of positional arguments. Now, when you do call the function with any number of arguments that you provide, Python is going to take all the arguments and it's going to pack them into a tuple. A tuple is basically an ordered collection of immutable elements. If you would like to know more about tuples, please refer to our video on tuples. Link is in the description. So now let's show more examples. Remember that we are trying to demonstrate that you can have one parameter provided here, but you would be able to call your function with any number of arguments. So we have added more arguments to this function. I'll save, and then let's run this code and see. Now notice that we have this function run successfully without any errors, and it's printing out the arguments that we have provided here, all 5 of them. We have Jane, Juliet, Joseph, Jeff, Donald. That's just what we're trying to explain here today, that though we appear to have one parameter in our function, we are able to call the function with many arguments. And that's simply because we have the star symbol preceding our parameter. Without this star symbol, of course, we are going to run into errors. I'll clear the terminal and then I'll run the code. Now notice that we have a type error, and this error is talking about positional arguments. Just one parameter is provided in this function, but at the point of function call, we have 5 arguments. So Python wouldn't have that, and so it is complaining and it's talking about the number of arguments exceeding the number of parameters provided in the function. So I'll clear the terminal and then I'll bring back the start symbol right here, and I'll save and run the code again. And I'll notice that just by introducing this star symbol, we are able to run this code without any errors whatsoever. Note that Args, as is being used here, is just like any other parameter name that you would provide in your function. You could decide to name it differently. You could decide to give it any name that you want to give it, as long as it's not a reserved keyword. Let's just have name and then replace this with name. I'll save, I'll clear the terminal, and I'll run the code. Notice that we still have the code run properly. So feel free to name your parameter like you would want to name it. The essence of this video is to show us that we are able to call functions with any number of arguments, as long as the parameter of that function is preceded with the star symbol. If the parameter of a function is preceded with a star symbol, you can have any number of positional arguments as you may want in your function call. You can basically just look at the star symbol in this context as a special character that tells Python to collect all positional arguments into a tuple. I hope that this is clear. If you have any questions or comments, please say them in the comment section. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.